is actually getting worse somehow. Alright. I wanted to do a video. I did a video a little while back. I should back up a little bit. I did a video a little while back. I need to adjust myself. I did a video a little while back about the University of Chicago's letter to incoming students for the class of 2020. And I thought it was an amazing letter. And I read it and all sorts of stuff. And I generally had glowing praise for it. I wanted to discuss it and kind of have a rebuttal to it. Like, okay, so alright, let's go through this. It is late at night. It's dark. An awful shape. And I'm a little tired. But let's go through this. Jay Ellison's letter to incoming students basically equated the use of safe space, trigger warnings, and the tendency to cancel controversial speakers, among other things. It was very good, very eloquent letter. And I wanted to have someone rebut that. Like, I wanted to hear the other side of that argument. Now, of course, I'm absolutely no one, so there was really no response to me and my comments on it. But there have been plenty of comments online about people reacting to Jay Ellison's letter, acceptance letter, and I'm going to briefly, we'll see how brief anything I do ends up being. I briefly respond to rebuttals of the letter that I've seen online. And it's just picking out whoever came out the most prominent. Lord knows, I'm figuratively and literally in the dark in most cases, particularly with news. I don't watch television, for example. So, outside world, it's out there. But yeah, I'm going to pick a few random examples and just talk about them, actually, and see how that works out. Because I really want to. I really want to talk about this. The letter itself was so cool, I want to talk about it some more. So I'm going to. So there. I'm not sure where I want to start this. So I'm just going to kind of jump around a lot. Like I said, I don't have anyone to rebut on this, no one to discuss, so we're just kind of, picking and choosing at random. One person I was looking at, there were a number of them actually, quite a few, but one is someone who preferred to be unidentified, apparently. Who in the hell is this guy? Who are these people? They have no names. This isn't signed. Well, screw you, then I just won't get to say your name. Something on studentactivism.net, where his premise is, and it's briefly, and I've seen this elsewhere, it's not to pick on whoever, the idea that, we shouldn't forbid trigger warnings. Let's start with trigger warnings. So let's start there. Where we shouldn't forbid trigger warnings because some material is actually pretty graphic, and graphic warnings. What's the big hubbub about trigger warnings? So let's get into that and let's start there. The big thing about trigger warnings is that this letter, the college acceptance letter, wasn't written. To read it again briefly, that particular line. Commitment to academic freedoms means we do not support so-called trigger warnings. That's all he says about that. We do not support so-called trigger warnings. That's all. He's not saying, hey, teachers, because this letter is written to students, remind you, incoming students, people who aren't properly students yet. Not to students who are currently students, not to teachers, not to teachers' aid, not to deans, or any administrators. This letter is written to incoming college students, warning them that, hey, we don't support trigger warnings. He's not refusing the use of them. He's not saying teachers aren't allowed to use them or that they won't use them. Some people do deal with material that is graphic enough that they would probably say, hey, look, this is some shit you're about to see, you know? Hang on to your pants. This could be really disturbing. They use it on television a lot, like the following thing you're going to see is super graphic. Or so I'm led to believe. I haven't watched television in a long time. They do it on YouTube and news channels and stuff like that. Where it's like, the following will be graphic, blah, blah, blah. Watch out. And it does turn me away sometimes. Like, it's a video where, you know, the byline tells you, hey, this is going to be a video of a police officer murdering someone. That's pretty graphic, pretty topical, and I'm not sure I want to see that. But I'll watch it up to a point, and then, like, okay, I'm full, we're done. I appreciate the warning there. This letter does not say we're not going to use them, that the University of Chicago is going to be a trigger warning, a warning-free zone. That's not his point, that's not what he says. He simply says, hey, we don't support it. Don't expect this. The trigger warnings themselves become sort of a controversial topic when they're used for everything. When it becomes a, hey, something that someone somewhere might find offensive is going to be said soon. The problem is if you use it all the time, it becomes useless, and I don't mean in warning people away from something dangerous, but rather for warning people away from something that isn't dangerous, or that they should see. You know? We're as tough and thick-skinned as we allow ourselves to be. It's hard to explain this one a little. It's like if you keep using trigger warnings, and people use them, like, you know, someone saying hurtful language is just as triggering as a beheading or a graphic depiction of rape or violence or an awful accident or something like that, then relatively harmless things are conflated with disasters, and in people's minds, the two are equated with one another. So you have to be careful. You have to use them cautiously, and you can't complain to the college, hey, you know, this, he said the F word, or something like that, and then complain to the college. This is the college telling you, we're not going to support bullshit like that. Like, yeah, shit, you're going to see some disturbing stuff. You need to learn to cope with it. That's an important thing about becoming a grown-up, and allegedly, as a liberal arts college or what have you, that should be part of what we're trying to instill on you, that you need to learn how to cope with things. Putting trigger warnings up for every single thing isn't useful. It isn't helpful. It doesn't help the people you're warning. So, sure, can teachers judge for themselves that, hey, this is going to be, you know, risible, be careful? Sure, of course they can. Nothing here indicates they cannot. There have been no letters from, you know, what's his name, Jay Ellison, saying, hey, teachers, you better not do any trigger warnings, or else what? It's never been implied. So that's weak sauce. That's a weak argument. That's, if people want to use them, they can. Nothing prevents them, but at the same time, don't go screaming to Jay Ellison or some other dean that you weren't warned ahead of time for something, that someone didn't find it offensive enough to warn you about it in the first place. It's not the job of the other students, of the college staff, to proactively, precognitively guess what is going to set you off. If you have triggers, be aware of them. Learn to cope with them. You know, seek help, guidance counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, a group, do something. I mean, take some initiative. The world isn't going to do it for you. So I agree wholeheartedly. I disagree with guy from Student Activist Net or whatever. That's silly. So, yeah, whatever. I'm on with that one. Well, let's move on and see what else we've got. La la la. Okay, let's see. Here's a good one. Emery. I guess that's Emery, the Emery Wheel. Does anyone have a fucking name anymore? We're so proud of our opinion piece, we don't even sign it. I guess. whatever. The Emery wheel, it's a board. The above staff editorial represents the majority opinion of the Wheel's editorial board. It was written by like 10 people simultaneously, I guess. Alright, whatever. And this is becoming a reoccurring pattern here when I'm looking for this. Jay Ellison put himself out there. He's like, I'm a dean. This is what I'm saying. Students, don't expect this, that, or the other. And I'm me. This is me saying it. This other shit, it's like, what is this? It's like, it seems cowardly. Like maybe they're not so sure of themselves. Like, it's like the dog that'll bark at you from behind a car. It's like, you really don't seem that sure of yourself to me, I think. That's my opinion, but whatever. Maybe there's some perfectly reasonable explanation. No one puts their names on shit anymore. I put my name on shit. Sort of. Kinda. Whatever. Whatever. The next thing was safe spaces. The Emery Wheel, Mr. Wheel, I guess, is saying that safe spaces one creates. He's talking about, let's go into that too. Let's go back to that. I just had that open. Yeah, there we go. The next one we and we do not condone the creation of intellectual quote-unquote safe spaces where individuals can retreat from ideas and perspectives at odds with their own. Okay. And the Emery Wheel, whatever it is, says the safe space one creates should not limit speech. They ought to enable and further it. While we applaud their initiative to preserve the freedom of expression, as we too fully support the same, dubious about that, we do not believe that the protection of freedom of expression and the concept of safe spaces mutually exclude one another. Interesting. Okay. Let's dig into that. Let me dig into it anyway. Certainly this isn't aimed at me. Well, whatever. Okay, here's the thing. Once again, he's saying he doesn't support the creation of safe spaces on campus. Nothing stops you from going to your dorm room or somewhere, or apartment, or a cafe, or whatever the hell, and just retreating, because sometimes we all need that. Like, shit gets too real, we get a little stress out. It's like, look, the whole point of a safe space is to escape something, is to be safe from something. Physical danger? No, that would be police, or, like a crisis center, like my, like an ex was like attacking you or threatening you. That would be something that I wouldn't recommend a safe space. I'd recommend calling the damn police. Ditto, it's not from physical harm, then it can't be. That would be a real safe space. That'd be an actual emergency. You'd get actual help, either from the authorities or from something more hardcore than a classroom someone declared to be a safe space, right? What is this a safe space from then? Well, logically, it's a safe space from ideas. So, yeah, Emery Wheel, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. What is the point of a safe space if not to escape ideas? But you don't need an on-campus safe space to do that. Put in your headphones, crank up, 9-inch nails or whatever the hell the kids are listening to these days. You've escaped it, whatever the bad idea is. The thing that, why would you be scared of an idea? It's frustrating, very frustrating. But you see what I'm saying? The safe space the idea can exist for nothing other than to escape other ideas, ones you find offensive. But it, the name safe space implies that the thing you are going to that place for is dangerous. But the thing you're going to the place for is another idea. I've got to read more into this because there's got to be more. I mean, I've got nothing to grasp at here. It's like, no, they're totally compatible. Free speech and safe spaces. I'm like, how? You get what I'm saying? It's why have a safe space if not to escape an idea? And if an idea is the thing you're escaping from, then congratulations, you've just censored something. You've totally shut down free speech. You've said this place, wherever it is not a place where you can speak your mind. This safe space is off limits to some idea that someone somewhere finds offensive. That's censorship. Good, regardless of what your intention is. That's what that is. I'm gonna call a cake, as the saying goes. That's what it is. If that's what you're saying and that's why you're creating this, you really are trying to censor something. You're trying to halt free speech. The two are incompatible. I can't think of a way they're not. But I'm going to dig into this and a couple others and see if I can maybe come up with a better argument from the other side. I don't know. This is getting rough. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. I'm going to keep going because I'm actually kind of enjoying this now. Let's see where we go. Okay. Calling bullshit on an emery wheel. Like, I got nothing out of you. Here's their definition of a safe space. Because that's what I'm kind of struggling for. What is a safe space? Really. Like, I suggested some possibilities, and I could be wrong. Maybe they see it a different way. I don't know. We'll see. Let me dig into this. Alright, so let's give this a try. The university, this is from Memory Wheel. Going through a couple of these, I'm not finding any good arguments to kind of fight, to kind of rebut. And I'm not seeing anything compelling here. Like, I'm looking around. God, I wish someone would just point me in the direction of something substantial. Anyway, let's go into Emery Wheel. Emery Wheel, quote, Chicago's interpretation of safe space neglects to address a very crucial social facet of safe spaces. I'm tired. Cut me some slack. Letter of attack attacks safe spaces as an official entity. As I said, yeah, but fails to acknowledge that a safe space, at least by Emery's definition, is policed only by social means. Let me take a stop right there. What? Well, that's not a safe space. That's certainly not what a university professor, or a dean rather, would be talking about. If you say something that offends everyone in the room, and they ask you to leave, that's not a safe space. That's just how normal humans work. Duh. Right? God, just... Alright, I gotta keep going. Sure, safe spaces provide a discussion-oriented sphere. God. In which myriad people can participate and voice various opinions. However, that isn't to say that some perspectives would not be met with some level of social consequences. I don't feel like they're saying anything. That's why I'm kind of got this annoyed look on my face. It's like, you're just saying shit. There's no specific example here. Like, I'm trying to use specific examples. There's nothing here. But okay, let's keep going. If met with some level of social consequences, if one presented his or her ideas in a disruptive manner, it is within the realm of safe spaces, and indeed, that's my point, almost any space for those present to request the offender to leave. Okay. The offender, however, is by no means required to comply and will not be subject to any official action unless they have broken any actual university policy or applicable legal statute. Similarly, within the classroom, it is within the professor's prerogative to remove a student, but it ought to be within the bounds of the university's authority. Here's my problem. They're making safe spaces, they're confusing safe spaces with society, all social interaction. What you just described, if someone were to present his or her ideas in a disruptive manner, it is within the realm, almost any space, no, not almost any space, any space for those present to request the offender to leave. The offender, however, is by no means required to comply. It's like, if a safe space is toothless, but people can ask you to leave, you've just described all of society. That's not a safe space, that's just how people interact with one another. I think Emery Wheel and a couple of these others are confusing. That's really the gist of my rebut to their rebut, is that they're confusing these particular social constructs with actual society, with these rules with real life. Because this is, if these rules are toothless, who cares? Then the dean doesn't have to say a damn thing about them. As I said, God, I do have to go through this again. The downside to a safe space is it's an escape from ideas. If it's not an escape from ideas, well, it's not very safe now, is it? But then again, the ideas aren't dangerous in the first place. They're ideas. If you don't like what someone has to say, then tell them to fuck off. You're within your rights to do so. You're within your rights to present your counter ideas in a disruptive manner, because no one's going to do shit about it. I think they're missing the point. If it has an official sanction, then it's censorship. Period. If they can say, no, you can't say that here, then it's censorship. If it has no official sanction, if it has no official or any strength whatsoever, then it's irrelevant. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it a safe space. What is the point of it then? What's the point of declaring something to be a safe space if it isn't safe and there's no way to enforce the safeness? So it's censorship or irrelevant. In which case, who cares? It's either who cares or no, you can't do this. So there goes your safe space. I'm struggling to find good arguments here. Not from my side, from this side. This is ridiculous. These arguments are weak. There, Emery Wheel, I'm calling you out. That's me calling you out, I guess. Because this is lame. Oh, God, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. I really want to talk about this. I really do, but the counter-arguments are kind of pissing me off. I don't find a weight in them. Okay, here's the student activist net. Let's go back to this one. This is the part of Jay Ellison's letter. We do not cancel invited speakers because their topics might prove controversial. As I said before, great line. I totally agree 100%. That's a thing that should be said. I'm glad he said it, and he said it in a great, simple, straightforward way. Kudos to Ellison. This is what StudentNet says. Quote, here too the letter reduces a complex, multifaceted question to a fatuous soundbite. Really? Are there many people really arguing that a university should cancel speakers because their topics? Yes, actually. I've seen several of them. Cancel or protest or disrupt. Just flat out, I don't like this person, I don't like what they have to say, they don't get to speak. I've seen them, I've seen videos of them, I've seen live videos of them. You can go to, whoever student activist net guy is, go to the internet, go to YouTube. Do you not have access to the internet? It's really awesome. It works great. Just look this shit up. Go to YouTube or any Google video site, just Google some video sites. Go to Students Shout Down Speaker. See if it has a hit or two, Oh, is this a thing in people's... Yeah, say... No, it's happening. That's a thing that's happened. I've seen it with my eyes. I've seen it, Not in my experience. And I pay quite a bit of attention to this stuff. Do you now? No. Listen to this. Quote, no, the letter here is misinterpreting the position it argues against. And in doing so, okay, I got it, and papers over the most interesting question it raises. Okay, let's see what you've got, sir. Here are some more interesting questions. Should a university invite speakers who are bigots? Okay, let me answer that one. Well, since we're having a make-believe discussion, let's go through that. Yes. The answer is yes, they should. Absolutely. Okay, moving on. If so, under what circumstances? Alright, so let's go through that. Should the university invite bigots? Yes, here's why. I've got this. I've so got this. Let's go. I've so got this figured out. I've got a great way to call this. What I'm going to do is go to dictionary.com. That was such a cool idea. Okay, what is a bigot? According to the dictionary, a bigot, noun, a person who is utterly intolerant of any differing creed, belief, or opinion. That's great. That's great. Okay, a bigot. So someone who does not tolerate differing opinions at all. So if it's my opinion that slavery, which still exists in the modern world, should be removed, and I am intolerant of the counter-argument, of any argument to the contrary, I am technically a bigot. Okay, so if I can apply that term, probably improperly, literally that might be true, but realistically you wouldn't call someone like that. You'd actually refer to that as very egalitarian. But regardless, if someone simply cannot be swayed, they're intolerant of opposing ideas, they are technically a bigot. Got to move down a little. Let's see more of my hideous... God, this looks awful in this light, too. My point is, who decides who's a bigot? Mr. Whomever, student activist guy? Student activist net guy? Who picks that? And that's kind of the point. If you're saying that someone who's a bigot doesn't get to speak, well, by the dictionary's definition, you, sir, are a bigot. You are intolerant of someone else's idea or ideas. I mean, someone might, and I used an extreme example, but it could be far less obvious. Well, I used flag burning once as an example. Let's say someone goes on campus and some people want to hear a guy like the anti-flag burning guy speak. And let's say that person is a total bigot. I am right, period. This is how I feel. No one should be allowed to burn an American flag, period. So, in fact, no, think about it. Double so? What do you care? Let them speak. I mean, don't cancel that. Don't shout them down. Let them speak. If it's a dumb idea, you can say, hey, that guy said this. He had his chance to speak. Wow, that was a bunch of bullshit. I disagree with it. as an aside, I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I disagree with it. There, done. The bigot is disempowered. I mean, what is... Student activist net guy, what are you afraid of? Really, what are you afraid of? I've mentioned this before. This was in my last video. If you disagree with some, you want them to talk so you can demonstrate to people, hey, this guy said this. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit, and here's why. I can't just... I can't disagree with someone if I don't know what their damn ideas are in the first place. Because these ideas can be very complex. I don't know. Now let's move on with this guy. Who should decide who is invited to speak on a campus? And who should determine how student money is allocated to bring such speakers? Really? The student body? Anyone at the student body? I mean, I'll confess right now, I have no fucking clue how speakers got on campus. I assume that some organization on campus said, hey, we'd like to hear from so-and-so, or so-and-so is going to various college campuses. Hey, let's drag that guy down. Let's listen to, whomever. I used Christina Hoff Sommers as an example. I can imagine quite a few people wanting to listen to her, even though her ideas are kind of controversial. I don't really think so, not really, but whatever. Does a student club have an obligation to go forward with an invitation is extended? If it later comes to regret it? That's not the point, you dumbass. The point is, if someone's invited on campus and a bunch of people have a big hullabaloo about it, say, no, we're not going to let that guy talk. God, and I've seen these videos. I've seen them, and I don't get them at all. This is why I was kind of please someone point out to me there's a good argument for this, because I don't see it. These seem like silly arguments. It's like if you don't think you're going to agree with someone, if someone's you think is going to piss you off, which could happen. It's not just a speaker on campus seeing them live in concert or whatever. Just as easily, this could be referred to a YouTube video. You know, if there's a YouTube video that I think I might not like, don't watch it in the first place. Or if I start watching it and I don't like it, I turn it off. You know, if I heard someone was speaking, I had no idea who they were, walked into the hallway and started listening to them and said, God, this guy's awful. This guy's full of shit. I totally disagree with him. I think this guy's a bigot. I'm going to stand up and leave. God, duh. Maybe? And I'll tell people later on, yeah, I went to that thing, I listened to a little of it, couldn't listen to too much more, that guy was full of shit. I say he's a bigot. There. I don't see that what this statement here is in any way a condemnation of what Ellis said. Ellis was quite eloquent, and it's like, we don't cancel controversial speakers. If a group wanted someone on campus, they wanted them on campus. What do you mean if they're come to later regret it? What the fuck are you talking about, sir? If you went through the trouble of getting the speaker in the first place and you come to later regret it, you just don't show up at the thing. Why would you regret it? Why would you care at that point? Once again, are his ideas going to cause someone to be spontaneously set aflame? No, then it's God damn it. Okay. And then he says these are all questions with people. What are the proper limits of dissent and protest? Finally, motherfucker. And disruption when an obnoxious speaker appears. That's an easy one. I mean, I agree. That's a good question. But it's not one I don't have an answer to. This isn't a deep, ephemeral, existential question. What are the limits? Well, you let them speak their piece, or you leave, or when there's a question and answer section, say, "Hey, asshole, you said this. I disagree with that. Here's why. Because that's interesting. I mean, isn't that what you want? If you think someone's a bigot, I'm going to keep using that word because that's what this guy, nameless guy here says. Isn't that what you want? Like, this is so funny because this is my video. Like, I'm trying to find that guy who I think is a bigot so I can argue with them. I don't want to get rid of them. I don't want them to be dismissed. I want them. Come here. Come here. I want to talk to you. Guy I disagree with. Specifically, so I can. All right. We have to go through this. Okay. Here's why we have to listen to bigots. It's very important. No, if someone's been invited, you've invited them. You don't uninvite them later. If you didn't want them, then... Well, that's silly. Because that implies that the alternative is you have a stricter policy for inviting speakers in the first place, which is only going to make it more difficult to get speakers, which of course is a limit to free speech, and thus a limit to free discourse. So, no, you don't do that. You make it easy to get speakers. And you don't dismiss them because you invited them. There was the chance someone wanted to listen to this person was willing to speak, let them speak. Done. That was easy. And here's the thing about listening to bigots and people you disagree with, is that, one, you get the chance to knock them down. Like, hey, here's some challenges to your idea, and for that matter to mine. We challenge each other, and by doing so, we learn what each other's ideas are. Doesn't mean we're going to end up making out at the end of this speech, but I've seen your ideas, you've seen mine. That bigot talking to someone who might also be a bigot just as easily, or just dealing with someone who they disagree with strongly, will learn what the opposing idea is. They can make adjustments to their philosophy. 2, I might actually change that person's mind even a little bit. Like, hey, I still believe in flag burning, but you bring up some good points. Like, maybe I don't have that great a rebuttal to it. Maybe I'll be forced to think about it more. Maybe I'll have some great inspiration, or maybe my opinions will be softened a bit. Maybe I won't be as much of a bigot next time. I'm going to just keep doing this because it's making fun of this guy, and he should be made fun of. This was a dumbass argument. 3, I, listening to this inflexible person, might learn something. Like seriously, I don't believe that flag burning should be restricted. That's stupid. That is a clear limit to free speech. But I'm open to alternatives. If someone can give me an argument, I might not change my mind, but I might learn something, at the very least about how someone who disagrees with me thinks. And that's very important. That's so important. God, they should have like a place of learning where people can be exposed to such an experience. How crazy would that be? You get my point. So, no, you don't kick controversial speakers off campus. And no, if it's a speaker. That's the point. That's what I think this guy's missing, is this isn't, it's not like if Rush Limbaugh or someone shows up on stage, they're going to open their mouth and start belching fire, incinerating the student body. Nor should the student body prevent someone like that, someone they strongly disagree with, from speaking. Let the guy speak his piece. You can make fun of him later. Now, what could be more detrimental to an opposing philosophy? Not allowing them to speak at all, or allowing them to speak, allowing them to say their piece, expose their ideas, and then expose those ideas as fatuous. Point out weak points in them, or destroy them utterly. That's important. It's not just a thing I believe, and I think clearly Jay Ellison believes, but I think it's genuinely important. thing. Is there anything else in this? Anything worth... Okay. I'm still gonna search around a little bit, but I'm not really finding anything weighty. And what I'm finding are pretty much aping these same ideas. And I don't agree with them. I think they're easily dismantled. The reason that we don't have safe spaces to escape ideas, is that you can't escape ideas. Ideas are not harmful. They can't harm you unless you allow them. If someone says is terrible, I mean, if someone is inciting real violence, I mean, I'm struggling here. I'm trying to find, nameless student activist guy and Emery Wheel and the rest. They're trying to struggle to find some substance in their arguments here. I guess if someone's inciting violence, but if they're doing that and they're actually saying we're going to kill these people, that's assault. That's a threat. If it's a large group or even a group that might potentially carry that out, that's a reasonable threat. That's against the law. At which case, it's not a matter of, well, we really shouldn't let them speak so they can threaten people. It's like if they're threatening people, they've broken the law and they need to at least be confronted, possibly arrested. Yeah? God, I don't know. I've got nothing on this. I really wanted to dig into this, and I'm not finding... I want to push against the wall. The wall's an illusion here. It's very poorly constructed. I don't find these arguments to be very persuasive. Safe spaces, the way they're describing, they're either irrelevant or they are not irrelevant, in which case they're full-on censorship, period. What are you being saved from? What are you safe from? It's an idea. Ideas aren't dangerous like that. 2. Trigger warnings. That's dumb. All he said was, don't expect them. Don't come crying to someone if you didn't get them when you wanted them. Look, you got to cover your own shit, man. You've got to be aware of that it's you, not the rest of society. If something has made you vulnerable to it, like an idea or something like that, you work to fill in that gap, to plug that hole, to armor yourself a little better so that that thing has no power over you. That's important too. And doing it the other way around, that no, we'll just cover the world in Nerf. We'll just remove all sharp objects from the universe. No, that's not going to work. If a teacher thinks that they should warn someone about graphic content, then they're going to. There's nothing here to indicate that they can't do that or they're not allowed. If you see it somewhere, please make me aware, because I'm not seeing that anywhere. I'm not seeing that in this letter or any follow-up materials. Because I did actually look in those other links. They were very damn fucking cool. Check out my other video. The links are in there. It's great. I might put them in this one too. And the thing about canceling speakers, it's not really about canceling speakers, although that's what he says. It's about it's about stopping them from speaking. It's about not letting people speak. And you should always let people speak, especially if they have dumb ideas. Let them undo themselves with their silly words. Or maybe they'll have actually ideas that you need to look at and think about. It's something to think about. Alright, it's getting warm. I'm getting annoyed. It's late. That's me. I'm